Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about a technique for when you are working an applied I-cord or an I-cord bind-off around a neckline or an armhole, and you need to join the two ends of your I-cord together. So I'm going to show you a technique that I have used here, which is not perfect, but I think looks pretty darn good and is a little easier than a traditional seaming method. So this method is basically a 3-needle bind-off. It's a little bit fiddly, but as I said, it gives you pretty good results. Now, none of this is blocked or anything yet, but it is relatively seamless. Of course, you're usually going to be doing these joins in a rather inconspicuous part of your project, so that helps. But I have worked this twice on my neckline and my armholes, and it gives pretty consistent results without too much attempting to seam. Now, honestly, in a perfect world, if you really want a very nice, perfectly seamless I-cord, what you really need to do would be a provisional cast on when you start your I-cord bind off. But that's, let's face it, a giant pain in the butt for something pretty much nobody is going to notice. So this will be a little bit easier than that. So I'm going to be working this on the opposite armhole. Let's get situated here. And so the first step in working an I-cord bind off is usually to cast on some more stitches. Many cases you're going to be casting on 3 stitches. In this case, this is a 5-stitch I-cord, so I'm going to be casting on 5 stitches. And so in order to make this join work well, the first thing you want to do when you are, and this requires a knit cast on, when you are casting on those stitches, is to cast them on pretty loosely. So as I said, I need to do 5 stitches. Many times it'll just be 3, but I'm going to try to do those. And again, I'm using a knit cast on, which is called for in the pattern, but this goes for whatever cast on you might be doing. I'm going to try to keep these stitches pretty loose so that they are relatively easy to work into when I get to the end. So I've cast on my 5 stitches. I have tried to keep them pretty loose. Now I'm going to work my I-cord, and there is nothing more to be done until I get to the end. All right, so I have worked my I-cord all around the armhole, and now I am back at the beginning, and I need to join the cast on over here with my last 5 live stitches. So let's get in a little closer here. So we're going to do as I said, a kind of modified 3-needle bind off, given that we've only got 1 set of live stitches. So as you'll probably remember, for our 3-needle bind off, we need our right sides together. So we're just going to turn this around so that the right side of our I-cord is facing the right side over here. So we don't have 5 live stitches, but we do know that we picked up 5 stitches. So we're going to reach in here and pick up 1 stitch at a time from the cast on edge. We're not going to pick up a knit, we're just going to pick up. We're just going to put a cast on edge stitch onto the needle with the live stitches, and then knit that stitch together with the first live stitch. There we go. Then we're going to do that again. We're going to insert the needle into the next cast on stitch. knit it together with the next stitch on the needle, and then bind off one. And then in my case, I'm going to do that 3 more times because I cast on 3 stitches and I have 3 live stitches left. You may do it a fewer number of times if you are only, for example, working a 3-stitch I-cord. So you're going to pick up a stitch from that edge, knit it together with the first stitch on your left needle, bind off. There we go. And as I said, this is going to create perhaps not a perfectly seamless join, but a join that frankly is seamless enough, but a lot less fiddly. Now I'm going to pick up the last cast on stitch, knit it together, okay, bind off. And here's how that join looks. Again, of course, this has not been blocked, but that looks, at least in my opinion, quite good enough for anything that's going to be seen from this far away. Nobody's going to get up like this to inspect your join on your I-cord. And from any sort of normal distance, I think this looks great, and it's a lot less fiddly than trying to seam, than trying to use a provisional cast on, or any of the other options. So, and there you have it. That is how I do it. That is what I did for this whole thing. Again, I do still recommend putting your join in an inconspicuous location, regardless. But I think that is a quick and relatively painless alternative to some of the other options for joining your I-cord edges. All right, and here we are post-blocking with my finished Sailor Swift top. Here is how that join looks once it's all washed and blocked. So if we zoom in really close, you can see kind of where it is, but it is relatively seamless. Same for back here at the back of the neck, and then turn it around and take a peek on the other side. Looks pretty darn good, I think, for a lot less effort. All right. That's all I got for you today. If you found this video useful, educational, etc., please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. New knitting videos here every Saturday, and I will see you soon in another video.